Hey everybody, this is Brian from Waffle Warehouse, and I'm here to give you a little review on the Razer Orbweaver. I've owned this device for about 3 months, and I've been using it non-stop in gaming ever since. I'm going to give you some of the pros and cons of the device, and maybe some of my opinions on it. So before we get into any pros and cons, I'm going to give you a little tour of the device and tell you what's on it. Starting from the bottom, we have a little palm rest made of some rubber, along with the open palm rest made of some textured rubber backed by plastic. This is more of a plate rather than a full rubber bottom piece like this. To the side we have a little control module that shows your key map, which you're currently in. By default we have the Alt key, which swaps your key map. We have an 8-way directional pad, which usually serves as up, down, left, right keys, and then your spacebar, which is kind of low, but you're pressing it with the side of your thumb, similar to a regular spacebar. And then on the top, we have the meat of the device, which is the 20 customizable keys, all backlit, all Cherry MX blues, and they are all numbered. The main keys, as you can see, have little arrows on them to indicate WASD as default, and are the centermost keys on the device. Okay, so moving on to the pros here, I'd have to say the number one pro is these Cherry MX Blue mechanical keys. They sound great, they have a really low weight, so you're only having to put down 50 Gs before you actually press that key, and for long periods of gaming, you're going to love that, because your knuckles and your fingers aren't going to feel all worn, and you're going to be pressing these keys a lot, and that clicking sound, that nice response, is very satisfying. I'll give you a little demo of the keys in comparison to the Black Widow as well. The second pro that I'd have to go with is the amount of adjustability you have in the palm rest itself, and how it can form fit to almost any hand depending on, I guess, preference. So, looking at the device here, we have the upper palm rest, which can be adjusted with this lever right here. You pull that bad boy out, hear that pop, and you can put it in free float, so when you want to reach up to top keys you can have it float up, and if you want to reach down to bottom keys you can have it float down. Or you can pop it back in, have it sit in the top, or if you pop it back out, you can have it sit down in the bottom. Now for the actual palm rest movement, on this side you can pull it back, and you can push it all the way in. This allows about 3/4 of an inch of movement, and that's about one key, actual key line down. So it can accommodate pretty much almost any hand size, as my hands are pretty small, and at the smallest setting I can reach all of them comfortably. On the side here we also have adjustments for the side module. Underneath the spacebar button you have another button. Let's see if I can see it on the camera here. Yeah, right here. You press that in and you can move it in or out, and these are all adjusted to click settings. It doesn't lock anywhere, there's little settings inside, but for the most part it is a very comfortable adjustment. A third pro of this device is the sturdiness and the build quality. It is superb. These nice padded palm rests are very nice. They're very sturdy. You don't feel a lot of skew movement when you're sitting on it, or when you have your hand sitting on it. And you can put a lot of weight on it. You're not going to feel it rock. You're not going to feel it creak. It's not going to break. It's not going to twist on you. It does have a very sturdy base, so you can't move it a lot. Even though this is on a mouse pad at the moment, on the bottom it does have these large rubber feet, even on the side module as well, and spread out throughout the rest of the base. It also, I don't know how well you can see here, but it does have metal connectors for this outer module, and I believe it does have a metal connector inside here. If not, it could be plastic. I haven't disassembled it, but overall it is very sturdy. It doesn't bend. It doesn't shift on you. So it is definitely a very sturdy device. The fourth pro of this device is it's very small. It's very portable. You can bring it anywhere. You can bring it to your LAN parties. You can bring it back and forth. I bring it back and forth between school and home. It fits right in my backpack. It's very small. It's only about maybe 1.5 inches at most on its side, maybe about 4 inches wide at its widest. And it fits in my backpack just like any mouse or any other gaming controller, similar to an Xbox controller size. And it doesn't have much weight. It's under a pound, very light, very sturdy for its lightness. And Really, it just has a very nice feel to it. A fifth pro to this device is definitely the amount of customization you have with all of these keys. You can have 20 customizable keys, along with 8 different maps within a profile. So on the fly, you can have over 160 different combinations of buttons. You can use shift and control modifiers within one button. You can use macros on the buttons, and the options are ultimately endless. And you can have maps for each game. You can have profiles for each game. There's really no stopping what the customization you're going to get out of it. The buttons also have a very nice design to them, also allowing you to access all of them. They have a nice concave shape, so when your hand's on it, you can get this nice claw grip, all of them always staying perpendicular to your fingers, and it does make it very easy to identify which row you're on, as well as the fact that the keys are in a linear fashion rather than a regular keyboard where you have the offset of the keys. I'm going to put up an image now, and on the screen you can see, side by side, that it has a much more compact build on the Razer Orbweaver in comparison to a regular keyboard, where you have the offset of the WASD keys, so your fingers sit on it slightly skewed, forcing you to either turn the keyboard or turn your hand. Very uncomfortable for the wrist. This also demonstrates the fact that your tab, caps lock, and shift key on your keyboard also take up a lot of space in comparison to the row feature on the Orbweaver. I know some people will move their WASD keys over into the center of the keyboard, more or less, so they get more keys access on the side, but again, you still have the skewed issue. You're not going to be able to access your key. Your keys on the lower half, such as like Control and Alt and Space, are going to be kind of awkward with your hands placed over them and away from them. Alright, so I'm going to name some cons of the device. Most of them are kind of opinion. Some people may not see them as cons, some people may not see them as anything at all. Some people may see them as reasons not to purchase the device. So, starting off, number one is the price. Financially, for some people it may be way too much, and some people it may not be an issue at all. So it is $130 right out of your pocket for this device, but the amount of stuff you're getting within the device package seems to warrant, for me anyway, a nice purchase. It is on the top end, so you could buy ultimately a whole keyboard for this price, but you're under the assumption that you won't need you already have a keyboard, and you're buying this as an extra. For some people, if you're really gaming a lot, it's a good purchase. If you're not gaming a lot, you're kind of casual, maybe out of your price range, maybe out of your bracket of even needing it. Another con of this device is definitely some of the adjustment options. It is very easy to find your adjustment option, but for me, it's very difficult for me to keep my open palm. It's not exactly comfortable. Maybe for some people with larger hands it is. I do have a tendon problem in my thumb, but keeping that open palm for that blower spacebar is just kind of a no-go for me, so I have to reach up here and grab on right about here for the spacebar and for the directional pad. I basically had to swap out the spacebar from here to here and change my Alt key up to here. That is one issue that is presenting itself. A solution maybe in a later model, or maybe something that would be nice for them to include, is maybe a way to shift this on a joint so you can shift it out to meet your thumb so you don't have to stretch your thumb to it. You can kind of have it sitting up on your thumb. A third con to the device, could be the fact that it does not come with a braided cable. It only comes with a plasticky rubbery cable, kind of your general USB cable. I do kind of find it weird that they didn't include that, considering all of their other devices do have the braided cables, even their keyboards do. I'm not sure why they chose to do it, but at least it does come with cable protection down here, keeping you from bending it, breaking it, pulling it out. Through my travels, it hasn't had any damage, and it seems perfectly fine to me. But again, it's another preference. Maybe that's a game changer for you. Maybe that's how you want to get your devices all to match and everything like that. And honestly, I can't think of that many more cons to the device. Maybe you in the comments could tell me some. Maybe there's something I missed. But ultimately, I think there are more pros to this device than there are cons. So here is the software side of things. The Razer Orbweaver does use the Razer Synapse, which is the cloud storage software for all Razer peripherals. You can see down here I have my Naga, my Orbweaver, and the Black Widow. On the Orbweaver screen, we can see the actual image of the Orbweaver we have the buttons all laid out. Green means I've changed the button, and black just means the button has remained its default setting. You can see the key maps on the side here. There's 8, and each one shows you on the image and the side which lights are going to light up when you're changing maps. I have about 6 maps set up right now, all using this 5th key up here to change maps. Looking over at the side, we have the profiles, which contains the maps. So you can have a bunch of profiles set up, each containing 8 maps apiece, and you can have that link to open with certain programs, so it'll swap your profiles, and then you can swap key maps within the profiles. Sounds kind of confusing, but it's not too bad. So if we want to go in and change some of the buttons here, we can go ahead and click one of them, and we can change it to a slew of different things. You have your basic keyboard functions, your mouse functions. You can change it to a macro you've made in the Razer Synapse. You can have inter-device communications where you're changing something like mouse sensitivity from your Orbweaver, or your mouse changing something on the Orbweaver. You can do whatever you'd like. Your switch key map, you have switch profile as well. And you can also launch programs, do multimedia, get some joystick response, or you can completely just disable it. You can also adjust the side view, the side buttons with the Alt key, the spacebar, and the directional pad. Directional pad has 2 options. You have the basic directions, and then you have the 8-way directions. You also have some other options over in lighting. You can change for the lights to pulsate, similar to the Naga logo or the Black Widow logo. Any of the Razer logos on their devices usually pulsate. And you can adjust its brightness between bright, dim, and normal. The slider bar looks like you can change it, but it automatically links over to the brightnesses. And you can also have the device kind of go into a sleep mode when your computer goes into sleep mode, and turn off the lights when your display goes off. So that is the software for the Razer Orbweaver, and ultimately it gives you a lot of access to different things on the computer, in the games, and on the device itself. So in summation, if you are a gamer and you love those Cherry MX Blues and you love those green backlights and you play for hours on end and you gotta have the next best thing, this is what you gotta buy. But in all seriousness, even if you aren't all of those things, you're one of those things, and you really like those maybe Cherry MX Blues, you like having all the customization on it, and you really like having the ability to do whatever you like with the device in comparison to only a couple macro keys on a keyboard, and you really want that comfort for your wrist, or possibly just the access to all the keys, much easier, maybe if you have a problem with your hand. It's definitely a device to look to. I would recommend it 100%. I've not had any problems with it. Its build quality is superb. It hasn't broken, nothing's stopped working for me. It's just been a great thing to have since day one. So all in all, I'd give this device a 9 out of 10 and recommend it to anybody who asked about it. And if you enjoyed the review, please rate, like, and subscribe.